Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props, or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk facts.
We're giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
Play it on the car ride, play it when you lounge. X and O, you know that we can hold it down. Shout out to my man Sammy, got it off the ground. And to all the listeners tuned in right now, got debates, analysis, and speculation. This is sports talk for the new generation. You know where to find us, got a reputation. Sick podcast, your #1 sports destination.
Giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
S-I-C-K is the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props, or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk back. S-I-C-K,
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 S-I-C-K.
all in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
S-I-C-K, it's the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props, or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk facts.
We're giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
Play it on the car ride, play it when you lounge. X and O, you know that we can hold it down. Shout out to my man Sammy, got it off the ground. And to all the listeners tuned in right now, got debates, analysis, and speculation. This is sports talk for the new generation. You know where to find us, got a reputation. Sick podcast, your #1 sports destination.
Giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
S-I-C-K is the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props, or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk back. S-I-C-K,
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 S-I-C-K.
S-I-C-K.
Turn up your volume. Because you're about to listen to The Sick Podcast. With Tony Marinaro.
55 seconds left in the penalty, a minute and 27 seconds left in regulation time. Boston 4, Montreal 3. Lafleur coming out rather gingerly on the right side. He gives it into Lemaire, back to Lafleur. Oh!
The sickest Montreal Canadiens podcast.
You're in the ball!
Sports entertainment like no other.
Rejoint, on lui fait perdre la rondelle, une passe devant. Et c'est le dégagement et ce sera la victoire des Canadiens. Stanley pour les Canadiens, le 23e de l'histoire.
You found the dogs! John, you found the dogs! He found the dogs! And all together, they worked a young team to the top. And now, a 24th Stanley Cup banner will hang from the rafters of the famous Forum in Montreal. The Canadiens win the Stanley Cup!
Brought to you by Energy Transportation Group. Driven to be different. Tibi. Embrace your true nature. And Playground, your premier gaming destination. It's gonna be sick.
Matt Ohayon with you on this Friday evening. Welcome, everyone, to the Sick Podcast. We are just a day removed from the Canadiens' loss in Detroit. Pretty big loss for the Canadiens, but it's okay. We discussed that last night with Pierre McGuire, and we're going to discuss it again today with my usual Friday guest, Stu Cowan of the Montreal Gazette. And we are just a little under 20 hours away from the game against the New Jersey Devils at the Bell Center, which should be a fun one. All right, let's bring him in. He's here. He's ready to go. Stu Cowan, how we doing?
Doing great. How are you?
I'm doing just fine. Not too cold anymore in the city. That's nice. It's going to drop, but don't worry. It's going to get a little warmer over the weekend. I'm clinging to that 0 degrees on Sunday. So very, very excited for that because it's been a painfully long week with the weather.
My dog's a lab husky mix, and she loves the cold weather and drags me out in it. So, yeah, it'd be nice to get a little warmer temperatures.
Yeah, I'm sure your dog is looking at you like when you were trying to drag them back home, they're looking at you. What do you mean? It's a nice temperature. I'm enjoying it.
Stay out there all day.
Yeah. Anyways, so the Canadiens lose last night 4-2 to the Detroit Red Wings. Listen, it's a big loss, no doubt, because I don't want to say that the Canadiens could have ended Detroit's season, but that would have really put Detroit in a lot of trouble when it comes to the East playoff race because it's just such a packed group there. And on the bright side, though, listen, you're not going to have your A game every single game. You can't win every game in the NHL. That's just not the way it goes. So what was your take on last night's loss?
No, a 4-point game, as you said. I mean, the Canadiens could have opened up a 7-point lead over Detroit, and now Detroit's 3 points behind them in the wild card race. Huge game for Detroit. The most shots the Canadiens have given up since October. They gave up 45 shots. They gave up 48 the first game of the season against Toronto, and then they gave up 45 against the Rangers a few weeks later. I think it's just a tired team. I mean, this has been a brutal schedule they're going through. 14 games in 30 days in January. They got 3 more games left, plus that, the Christmas trip they went on at the end of December. It's been just the different time zones they've gone through. They've been all over the place. It's been a real grind. And, the thing is, they put up a pretty good record. They've done well. The 11 games in January, you got a 7-3-1 record. So you can't complain. Like you say, you're not going to win every game. You're not going to have your A game every game. Last night, they didn't even really have their B game, giving up that many shots. And it's going to happen. But you just keep looking at the big picture and the run this team has been on. And now they're back home. They're back home for the 3 games to finish out the month. Had a day off today, a chance to relax. Marty St. Louis has cut back on morning skates and practices recently for that exact reason, trying to get guys to keep their energy for the games. But they're human, right? And to me, they just looked like they were a tired team last night. They fell behind. They tried to fight back again, and then they just didn't have the gas left in the tank. So I think the day off today was just what they need, and we'll see if they can come out with a little bit of a better effort tomorrow night against New Jersey.
That's it. So 12-4-1 since December 17th. Yep. No alarm bells, just because the Canadiens were winning all the time, and we've seen 2 losses within a week. No alarm bells are being rung.
No. As Patrick Laine said, the other guys get paid too, right? They get paid.
Yeah, exactly.
And that was a massive game for Detroit at home. I mean, you're right. I mean, they're not out of it if they lose that game, but the 4-point game and a huge game at home, and they showed up.
Well, that's it. It just felt like to me from the get-go, Detroit understood the gravity of that game for their season, and they played desperate. That's what it was. They threw everything they had at the Canadiens. This is a team that is ranked 31st on the power play. On the penalty kill, and 68% penalty kill. That's exceptionally low. And we think back to how bad the Canadiens penalty kill was, last year, the year before, and it wasn't that bad percentage wise. And they killed off those penalties that they took. They really didn't give the Canadiens any room. And I thought at one point in the second period, after the second goal, I thought, okay, Cam Talbot looks a little uncomfortable in his crease right now because he didn't face many shots in the first period. And he just looked like he was battling out there. So I said, maybe if the Canadiens could get a couple chances here, they might have something. They might be able to squeak out a point here. Maybe they had that chance in the third period with Cole Caulfield, with that nice pass from Jake Evans, but that's just the way it goes.
Yeah, and Sam Montembeault was shaky last night too. I mean, he let in a couple of bad goals. One, he lost his net. I don't know what he was doing there, and then the one soft rebound he gave up the goal. And it'll be interesting to see what Marty St. Louis does. As I said, they're off today, so we don't know. But does Dobush get the start? Give him a Saturday night start at home at the Bell Center? I would do that if I was St. Louis. Give him a chance, and if he performs really well, I'd let him hold the net for a couple of games and see what he can do. And that's not a knock on Samuel Montembeault. He's played a lot of games, but Montembeault looked tired last night too. He didn't look sharp. He didn't look on his game.
Yeah, I found that as well, but he found his footing. It was just he kept the Canadiens in, because you give up 44 shots.
Yeah, not too many goals can win when you give up 45 shots.
Exactly. So one of the things that I noticed that again, we're not ringing any panic button, hitting the panic button or raising any flags, but something that was interesting to me was that this was not just the worse than a B game from the Canadiens, but you see when they get tired, how the system really starts to crumble, because that was, like you said, the first time that the Canadiens have given up that many shots since October, and they were heavily outshot because through this stretch of games, so 12-4-1 since December 17th, we haven't seen them give up 30 shots many times, if any. So it was just you could see that system is you got to be locked in to play that system, because the dog days of winter, that's just what it was. It was a Thursday night in Detroit. It was far from a sellout crowd. You could tell that just by looking at it on TV. Hard to get up for those games.
And one of the reasons the Canadiens have had success during this streak is their ability to roll four lines before Heineman got hurt. And they sent Owen Beck back down to Laval, and they put Pizzetta in last night. He had 4 minutes of ice time. You're not rolling four lines and one of your wingers is getting 4 minutes of ice time. I mean, they're rotating, putting, Anderson's getting some extra ice time in there, and maybe Gallagher on that line. But, moving forward, they sent Jaden Struble down to Laval today too. He hasn't played much. He hasn't been a healthy scratch to get 7 straight games on a conditioning thing. But moving forward, I don't think they can just keep putting Michael Pizzetta in there. And I like Michael Pizzetta, but I think the Canadiens, the way they play the game has passed what Michael Pizzetta can keep up with. With the four lines rolling and the speed they're playing, I don't think physically he can keep up, and I don't think he can process stuff quick enough to keep up, especially from not having played so many games. I mean, he's played, 11 games all year. Like, that's hard on anybody. But it's going to be interesting to see what they do moving forward if they call somebody else up from Laval. Joshua Roy's hurt now. He's out, I think it's 4 to 6 weeks. Do they call up Barré Boulet, a veteran guy who maybe can fill in on that fourth line role with limited minutes? But one of the big keys to their streak has been the ability to roll four lines and roll 3 defense pairs and set lines for a long time. And, if you're going to dress Pizzetta and only play him 4 minutes, might be better to dress somebody else.
Yeah, it's hard to imagine that they're just going to keep going this way, especially, we were talking energy levels. The Canadiens were low energy last night. It seemed like pretty much all of them, except for Jake Evans and Kirby Dach to an extent, were kind of skating with cinder blocks attached to their feet.
And Pizzetta can provide an energy boost if you throw him out there. But, 4 minutes of ice time in a game, that's hard for any player to get get his legs going and get a feel for the game and not be playing afraid to make a mistake. And I think that's what we've seen with Michael Pizzetto. When he does get in, he's playing afraid to make a mistake. And that's why we're seeing some of the penalties he's taking and whatnot. But I think they need to call somebody up from Laval. And maybe it's the veteran Barry Boulay. I understand Owen Beck. They called him up. They put him in a tough position too. He's a centerman. He's not a winger. He told me the last time he played wing, he played like one shift or a couple of shifts as a rookie in junior. So to bring him up to the NHL and then put him on a wing, an uncomfortable position, and give him only 6-7 minutes of ice time, whatever he was getting, they obviously feel it's better for his development to send him back to Laval. I agree. I think he will be with this team next year as a centerman. Christian Dvorak's not going to be back. Jake Evans, we don't know what's going to happen with Jake Evans. I expect he will be back. Jeff Gordon was on a podcast, one of the Sick podcasts last night, and saying they want to sign him. They're working with it. I hope they can reach a deal. But for Owen Beck sending him back, and to me at this point, Joshua is hurt. Barry Boulay might be the guy. Just as I said, as a veteran who you can put in there, and he's not. Marty St. Louis made an interesting comment about Beck, and he said with young players coming up, a lot of times they feel they have to do something to help the team, but it's more important they don't do something to hurt the team. Take a bad penalty, make a bad giveaway, do stuff like that. And I think with Barry Boulay as a veteran guy, he understands how to do that, how to not take unnecessary risk, and how to try not to hurt the team.
And it's funny because that's an interesting point by Martin St. Louis, because you want to talk progression of the team. We've seen him hold players more accountable to their mistakes this season and paying dividends. Look where the Canadiens are. But it's just interesting that he makes that point when about a year ago, he would have said, we want our players to play free.
Just play. That's the progression they've made in this rebuild, right? When he first came in, and all the questions about, going from coaching a Bantam team with his kids to coaching in the NHL. And he had a good line, St. Louis. He said, so I think right now this team needs to have fun more than anything else. And I've just been coaching kids, so we're going to have some fun. And that's what it was. He made the game fun again for them and let them go play. Like if Owen Beck got called up 2 years ago, go play, Owen. Do your thing.
12 minutes,
Yeah. Do your thing. If you make a mistake, don't worry about it. But now they've progressed in where they are in the rebuild. They're in the mix for a playoff spot. And it's as he said, it's more important for Owen Beck not to make a mistake than it is for him to try and do something that's going to make him stand out offensively. So with that in mind, that's why I think it's better just to send them back to Laval. Laval's got a good team. They're in first place in their division. They can, Joshua was a big injury for them. They can use him down there. Jeff Gordon also spoke about how important it is to get the young guys in Laval experience in the playoffs this season, getting them in. So it made sense for me to send Owen Beck down. They got to look at him for a couple of games. I figured that they don't want to put him in that position, having him playing out of position on the wing, and go back to Laval and play center again.
So another thing Jeff Gordon spoke about, this podcast we were talking about, is the eye test, a Sick podcast production. So if after you're done watching this, if you haven't seen it already, go check it out. But don't leave us yet. But we will talk about it. Shane, pull up a little teaser clip. Let's grab the one about where he was talking about the importance of playing meaningful hockey right now.
Playing meaningful games, and the term "in the mix" became very fashionable, right? Because in Montreal on media day, we all kind of said it. But and then as things evolved out of camp and those first, 20 games, it wasn't looking good. We weren't playing well. We all knew it. But obviously the last, I don't know what it is now, 20 games, guys have kind of dug themselves out of it. They found a way. They're all these games have been great. This is what we want. We want games that are going to be you want to be in a situation where every game day, you're saying this is the biggest game of the year, and that's kind of where we're at, right? Every night is the biggest game of the year right now, and the guys are loving it, right? I just think, he gets sick of losing the way we were playing in the beginning of the year, and credit to Marty, credit to the players, but it's been a lot more fun the last 20 games than the first 20.
Yeah, certainly, especially for everyone, for those covering the team, for the fans, and for the team itself. I think also we got to credit Kent Hughes and Jeff Gorton for, doing something about it,
Yeah.
not just remaining patient and, riding this thing out for another, top 5 pick, which I know some people would have wanted, but, every year there's going to be another guy that's the top 5 sexy pick. So they're playing meaningful games. They brought in an Alex Carrier, really shored up the defense. We know that. And
brought in
again, this is
also, yeah. That 9-2 loss to Pittsburgh was alarm bells went off after that game. Like right up, I'm sure, to Jeff Molson's office. Like, we can't let this go off the rails. We need to do something to try and get this back on track. And they haven't. I talked with Jake Evans after the game the other night, and he was saying it's fun because he's actually looking at the standings again. Like, for the last couple of years, he wasn't even looking. Like, they knew they were out of it, right, by this time of the year, basically. So he said it's kind of cool now to look at the standings and be exciting and see where they are. And I think it's the same for fans, right? And even as in the media, I'm looking after every game last night. Okay, let's call up the standings and see where they are in the wild card race. And also, they're chasing. The other thing, last night's loss was huge because they could have jumped ahead of Tampa and moved into 3rd place in their division, which is an automatic playoff spot. So that was a big 2 points they lost there. But you say kudos to Gorton and Hughes because they've been very, very patient since taking over. But they also realize that these young guys, they've got to start playing meaningful games. You don't want to become the Buffalo Sabres, where for 14 years in a row you missed the playoffs with meaningless games.
And they lost again last night. Yeah. The Sabres did. It's just, it's the Sabres. I think they're sitting at 41 points. They're out of it at this point. I think that win by Detroit.
Yeah, they're 12 points out of it's not only they're 12 points out. They got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 teams between them, right? They're basically officially eliminated already.
Yeah. So again, that's just that's the whole thing with tanking and fans of the tank. And we need one more prospect every year. You're going to need
having young guys who just get used to losing, and I don't want to say give up, but stop looking at the standings.
Yeah.
Right? They stop looking at the standings. They don't really, we're out of it. It doesn't really matter. And when you're not looking at the standings, you're not really as concerned about the results, right?
Well, that's it. I think
if you're it doesn't make that big of a difference in the big picture.
Well, I think if you're not in the position you're in, not that the Canadiens ever they did against Pittsburgh roll over and give up, but I think against Tampa, if you're not in the position you're in, and you're a lot closer to Buffalo than you are to Tampa and Boston, they don't show that extra fight and take those 2 points from Tampa. I think that's just what it would have been, because now the players understand the gravity of situations. They know they're going to show up in the dog days of winter at home. Last night, probably a one-off. I know there was Toronto that was close by, but that's a whole other that was a whole other issue that we could dive into if we want. But that is the impact of the players checking out the standings. They understand what a division game means now. They understand what the 3 matchups remaining in the season against Ottawa mean, what the 1 matchup against Boston means, and the 2 other games they have against Buffalo and the 2 games that they have against Florida. Yeah,
and fans will get overly excited after a big win, and they'll get overly dejected after a loss like last night. They went to Detroit, they had to win. They didn't have a great game. They play 82 games. They're gonna lose. There's nights that's gonna happen. But again, at the beginning of this month, if you had said the Canadiens would be 7-3-1 in the first 11 games of the month with 3 games at home coming up, I think anybody would have taken that. Whether it was Marty St. Louis, Jeff Molson, fans. You gotta remember, this is still a rebuilding team, right? This isn't a Stanley Cup team. Although, as Marc Bergevin used to say, get in the playoffs and anything can happen, which is true. It's more likely anything can happen when you have Carey Price and net than when you have Montembeault and Dobish. No knock on those 2 guys. But yeah, it's just important to get this team playing meaningful games, and at the same time having the young kids in Laval playing meaningful games. I mean, Pascal Vincent, what a job he's done with this team. He's really done. Like I don't follow the AHL that closely apart from Laval, but I mean, he's got to be a candidate for the coach of the year, because when development camp and training camp, he was saying it's going to be rough at the beginning. We're a really young team. We got a lot of guys first year pro hockey. It's the first time sort of living away from home or away from a billet family. First time it's pro hockey, playing against man. It's going to take time. It's going to be rough at the beginning, and hopefully we'll start to gel a bit around Christmas time. But they've been good right from the get-go. They've been a good team, and that speaks a lot about what he's been able to do. And speaking with Owen Beck and asking him about it, he said that the coach brought in a winning attitude right from day one. Even though they knew it was going to be tough, like it was a winning attitude in the locker room that he developed. And we're starting to see that develop now with the Canadiens also.
Yeah, and it's good to see it all the way through the organization. I don't know what's going on with Trois-Rivières, but to be winning in Laval.
I mean, that doesn't even really matter, right?
Exactly.
In ECHL. I mean, the David Desharnais of the world come along once in a blue moon that get out of the ECHL and make it to the NHL.
There you go. So, but the AHL, let's remind everyone who won the Calder Cup one year. Carey Price, Thomas Plekanec, and Brendan Gallagher. They all are Calder Cup winners. And, they all obviously have been significant pieces to the Montreal Canadiens in the last 20 years.
Yeah, you learn how to win a playoff run in the AHL. I mean, if the Canadiens could get into the playoffs, even if they only last one round, just to get that experience of playing in the playoffs for these young guys, and if Laval can get into the playoffs and go on an extended run, like what a great experience it would be for all these guys involved. Talking about Owen Beck, Owen Beck, if he comes into Canadiens training camp next season after going through a playoff run, what a boost that would be for him. If David Reinbacher, who's back skating now, is healthy enough and he gets into the playoff run, Logan Mailloux, Philip Michard has had a tough season. He missed 4 weeks or whatever it was. Actually, it's more than that. It was almost 2 months with an injury. All these guys that, I had the Habs mailbag I do every weekend on the Gazette website. One fan was saying, should we give up on Philip Massar? Like, is this guy done or whatever? He's 21 years old. First year in the AHL. Now, it's too soon to give up on him. And he hasn't had an extended run. So, like, guys like that getting into a playoff run would just be huge.
And the last thing you want, just on that note, is to give up on a player, like you said, 21 years old, and then they become someone else's reclamation project that works out. And then, that looks really bad on you. So
he's the reason he was a first round pick, 26 overall. He's a talent. You don't get picked in the first round of the NHL draft unless you're a talented player.
That's it. So speaking of playing meaningful hockey and, playing these games that matter, I still think the Canadiens need a little boost, a little shot in the arm, even with Heineman, who's going to be coming back. They still need to upgrade somewhere. So Jeff Gordon also spoke about their position heading into the trade deadline.
You and Kent, you're not going to deviate from the plan. But how hard is that when this city is just revving up and they want you to just go far in the playoffs? They haven't tasted this in so long. How hard is that temptation right now?
Well, I'm trying to think of the place being crazier than it is. Could be good and bad, right? So, listen, I think we definitely have a plan, and we're not going to deviate from trying to build a team that's going to win for a long, we're going to compete for a while, right? So you're not going to see us trade young players that we think are going to be part of that. So if anyone's looking for that, they're probably looking for the wrong thing. But if we see an opportunity, and Kent and I just talked about this morning. We just had our scouting meetings all week. So if there's an opportunity to help these guys, they've deserved it. Right now, the way they're going, we'll see what happens tonight and leading up to the Four Nation break. So, right now, those guys, like we always tell the players, they'll tell us, if we're playing well and they deserve it, can we add and give us a chance? Anytime you can, we want to be in the mix. We want to do, we want to play these games. We want every game to be the biggest game of the year, and they're doing it. If we can help them along, I think we'll look for that.
So I think they deserve that. The players have told them. They've really they're not just, in the mix could mean, 5 points out of a playoff spot, 4 points out of a playoff spot. No, they're in there. They're 1 point back of a division spot or 2 points back of a division spot. And is that a matter of, other teams underperforming? Well, you can only, you're dealt the hand you're given. Sometimes you win on a 2-7 flop, in poker. So I think that the Canadiens have earned that chance. And frankly, I don't have a player in mind, but I think they're going to go after somebody on the offensive side of things. And just by, looking at the lineup and seeing where they could, materially upgrade in a realistic stance, I think that's the 3C position.
And they've already helped them by getting Carrier, right? They gave up on Justin Barron, who was a guy, they traded Arturi Lehkonen to get him. He was a former first-round draft pick. They gave up on him, thinking Carrier could come in and help them right now, help stabilize things. And man, were they ever right? Since they've put those 3 defense pairings together with Matheson and Hudson and Carrier with Caden Gooley and then Jack-Eye with David Savard, they've been pretty solid on defense. Now, last night in Detroit, an exception with the 45 shots against. But, they helped them then. And I think they realized, as I mentioned earlier, I think they realized things were starting to go off the tracks and they wanted to get them back on the tracks. Okay, we've seen enough of Caden Primo now. Give up on that. We'll bring up Dobas if somebody claims Primo on waivers. Okay, we lost him. No, although I don't know who was going to claim him on waivers at that point. So, yeah, I can see them doing it again. It won't be it's not going to be a major blockbuster trade. But, trying to bring up – and it'll be interesting to see what they do too, because Dvorak – they're going to I think basically you're going to take what you can get for him. Then tougher decisions with Armia and Evans and David Savard. Do you package David Savard and a younger guy and try and get a younger version of David Savard or somebody else who can play with Arbor Jack-Eye moving forward? So it's going to be really interesting. But the key, and by Gorton saying that, the players are going to hear what he said, so they know that now, right?
Yeah.
If we keep playing hard and we stay where we are in the standings, they're going to help us out and get us in and players want to play in the playoffs. And Marty St. Louis was asked the other day, I can't remember which game, it was the Detroit game, I guess, is this the most important game of the year? And he said, where we are, the most important game of the year is the next game all the time. The next game is the most important game of the year. So Detroit was the most important game of the year. Now New Jersey's the most important game of the year. I think that's the way they have to look at it. Every game, this is so tight, the race. I mean, it's crazy. You look at the wild card standings. Before heading into tonight's game, you got Tampa with 53, Columbus with 53, New York 52, Ottawa 52, Montreal 52, Philadelphia 50, Detroit 49. It's going to also the rest of the season. It's going to be like that. It's going up and down. So the next game is the most important game. But for the young players, just knowing in the back of their mind that it's not going to be like a garage sale on trade deadline if we're in the we're just looking forward to the future. Guys, NHL careers are short, right? A guy like Brendan Gallagher, he wants to get in the playoffs now.
Yeah.
Jake Evans, as I mentioned, looking at the standings, he wants to get in the playoffs now. They all want to get in the playoffs now. They're not looking at the big picture 4 years down the road. They want to get in the playoffs now. I think it's important that they've reached the stage in this rebuild where they're able to give the players hope, whereas the first 2 years, going into the season, as he said, Gordon said at the podcast, in the mix was the fashionable thing. Well, it was fashionable because they brought it up.
Yeah, exactly.
Before their meetings, before the golf tournament, they had meetings, what they're going to say to the media, and obviously in the mix was the slogan they were going to use. And as Gordon said, after 20 games, it didn't look like they're going to be in the mix. Now it looks like they will, and in 20 more games, we'll see where they are. And that's right around the time we get to the trade deadline.
The Sick Podcast is brought to you by Energy Transportation Group. Energy Transportation Group is a leading full-service logistics provider serving all of North America, driven to be different. The World Cup of Cards returns to Playground from January 22nd to February 2nd with over $900,000 in guaranteed spread out over 16 championship ring events. Highlights include a $400,000 guaranteed multi-day main event and the multi-day PG 300 Mega Stack event with $150,000 guaranteed. The World Cup of Cards at Playground as of January 22nd. Visit playground.ca for details. We're also brought to you by La Bittt Tibi Beer. La Bittt Tibi has launched their new Ultra Lager, a refreshing, thirst-quenching, perfect for thirst quenching beer, perfect for those chilly winter days with only 90 calories, 2 grams of carbs, and 4% alcohol per can. Available in packs of 6 and 12 in grocery stores all around the province of Quebec. Ultra light and ultra refreshing. We're also brought to you by Betway. Go all the way with Betway and get a free bet up to $200 if your first bet loses. Scan the QR code on the screen or click the link in the details section to create an account and redeem your welcome offer. Offers available only for new customers. Terms and conditions apply. Offer is not available in Ontario. You must be 18 years or older, and please play responsibly. Okay, so deadline around the corner, coming up quick. I mean, around the corner. It's still March 7th, but the Canadiens do have only so many games left to really tell management, basically, okay, you're making a move because we deserve this. And making a move, while yes, it's a tight locker room. We've spoken about that many times. Players also understand that they're not going to be in the same locker room together forever. This is a business and the team needs to progress. They know that certain players are a part of the future and other players are not. So they have probably 10 more games, I would say, to really show management, hey, we deserve something. We need something. We need some help out here. We're doing the best we can. We're winning these games, but there's we're not in a bubble here. There's other teams in the running and they might be looking to upgrade as well. So we want to keep pace. I give that number about 10 games.
Yeah, that would seem about right. That's going to take us near the end of February, good midway through February. And it'll be interesting to see how long they wait if the Canadiens decide they're going to do something. Do they wait right until March 7th? Do they try and do something a little bit earlier to get a little bit of a bump earlier? And as Jeff Gordon said, they had their scouting meetings this week. So all those, the players, I'm sure they've targeted the players that they'd be interested in, that they think might be available. And they've decided, deciding, are we going to give up David Savard no matter what to get whatever we can? Dvorak. To me, the big, they obviously want to re-sign Jake Evans if they can. I'm wondering what the appetite is to try and re-sign Joel Armia. Mm-hmm. And, a year ago, who would have been thinking that, right? It was like, oh, I just can't wait for this guy's contract to end, when they sent him back to Laval. That was an incredible wake-up call. And I remember Marty St. Louis saying at the time, after Armia went down, he says, Armia has to realize that your days in the NHL aren't many, and your days after the NHL are a lot. And that's for every player, right? I mean, these guys retire when they're in their 34, 35 years old. They got a lot of life left without the NHL. And that message maybe got through to Armia, where he realized, man, I got sent down. He had to clear waivers to go down too, right? Nobody wanted him. And his game has really picked up since then. But he's become, that line with Heineman and Evans and Armia has been not the fourth line, but I mean, they start most games. They're up because Marty wants that energy from them to come through. And I think now with Heineman gone, we're really getting to appreciate just how good this young kid is. He's a really, really good hockey player. I mean, you could make the argument, is he going to develop into a better player than Juraj Slafkovsky? It's not beyond I mean, I like a lot of what I see about Heineman. He's a little bit older than Slafkovsky, uses his body better. He's put up points not playing with Nick Suzuki and Cole Caulfield, and just a really, really good young player. It's going to be interesting to see how he develops moving forward. But they've missed him, and I think part of the reason they were tired against Detroit is they were double shifting guys right on that fourth line to fill his spot. So, excuse me. They'll be counting the days until they get Heineman back in the lineup.
I wonder what their internal conversations are like about Juraj Slafkovsky, because I think it's pretty clear that he is struggling and his struggles have continued. Yes, he's had some good games as of late, but he's not the same player that he was last year at this point in the season. At this point in the season, he was proving a lot of naysayers wrong, myself, yourself included. Mm-hmm. He was a dominant force out there. He was the straw that was stirring the drink of that first line. And now it's, you don't want to call him pedestrian, but when, your two line mates are about point per game pace and you're nowhere even near that, you're kind of riding on the coattails. So I'm really curious to know what those internal conversations are like, given the fact that they gave him that massive contract.
Yeah. And Kent Hughes has already had a discussion with him about that, obviously telling him that they weren't pleased. And with young players, it's all about consistency. And Marty St. Louis says it. The scouts I talked to say it. Slafkovsky himself says it. He's got to move his feet to be effective. He's got to be moving his feet and skating all the time. That way he can use his body to his advantage. He can get in position better. And everybody keeps saying it, but for whatever reason, he can't do it, or he hasn't been able to do it consistently. And when you have to do it and you still can't do it, it's like he's young, right? That's he's 20 years old. But on the other hand, with Heineman's been very consistent. I mean, he was leading the team in hits before he got hurt, averaging like 11 minutes of ice time a game. He's a big boy. He's not as big as Slafkovsky, but he's pretty big and solid. And he uses his size to his advantage. He uses his shot to his advantage. When he gets a chance to shoot, he shoots. Whereas Slafkovsky a lot of times is still looking to pass or looking to make another play when he has a great opportunity to shoot. And Ken Hughes said, before this season, there's going to, progress isn't linear. There's going to be ups and downs with Slafkovsky. And we've seen it. But, last season he turned it on in the second half of the season. Maybe he can do it again this year. But he's got to be more consistent. I mean, that's, before Heineman got hurt, I was saying, I'd like to see Heineman get a chance on that line, on that number one line, just to see what he could do. And it didn't happen. Maybe it happens after Heineman comes back in the second half of the season. But for Heineman, he's really been, I don't want to say a pleasant surprise, because Kent Hughes was really high on him when they acquired him in the trade. He impressed me like right from last season during development camp and training camp. Then he had that sort of freak injury in Laval early in the season. He had that concussion when he ran into the referee, which set him back a bit. But they've got a good player in him. Like he's a power forward. And Slafkovsky is also a power forward, but Slafkovsky has the tools to be a better power forward than Heineman. That's why he was the number one overall pick, but he's got to put it all together.
Emil Heineman, talking about his physicality and how he was leading the team in hits. I've been saying for a while that the Canadiens have a dog type player, that guy who's going to pull you into the fight no matter what. He's going to grab you by the collar of your jersey if you're a little sleepy that night. And that's Caden Gooley on the back end. This guy, he shows up every night. Not that other players, they take a back seat or whatever, but
he's a warrior.
You just tell, exactly. They need that type of player on offense as well. And I think if Emil Heineman, I know you have good chemistry with that line and you don't want to mess with it, but if he can move his way up the lineup, he could be that guy. He could be that player, but just his pure motor. He reminds me of a Brendan Gallagher of 7 years ago. Just
bigger.
Bigger.
He's definitely got Brendan Gallagher's work ethic. He's got a much better shot than Brendan Gallagher. He's much bigger than Brendan Gallagher. And, playing on that line with Suzuki and Caulfield, one of the reasons I would have liked to see Heineman get a chance there, if you're the third member of that line, you want to get them the puck, right?
Yep.
You want to be in on the forecheck, hitting guys, creating loose pucks, and getting them the puck, and then going to the net, right? And it was good because we saw Slafkovsky score the other night, going into the net, cross right into the crossbar. He's got to do that consistently. And Heineman has done that consistently. And I said I'm really interested in seeing what would happen if they did make that happen. I'd like to see it happen moving forward, and it's up to Slafkovsky can stop that from happening by playing up to the way we saw him play in the second half of last season. And for him and the Canadiens, hopefully he does. One of the things I really like about Slafkovsky is he's very he knows when he's not playing well, and he's one of his own worst critics. But he's just got to what he's saying to the media and what he's saying to himself about moving his feet. He's really got to get better at that.
Well, I kind of make this analogy a lot. I made it a lot with Kirby Dach, and credit to him. He took the bull by the horns and he's turned his game around. It was just great comeback for him after that injury. But Slafkovsky, saying the right things all the time is, you're a 50-pound overweight kind of guy, and you say, yeah, I know I got to get to the gym. I got to eat better. I got to get to the gym. I got to eat better, but you just never do it. You know, that's what words are at this point to this team, because, you know, they can't really afford passengers just for two reasons. One, they're in a playoff mix, and two, they're not good enough to afford a lot of passengers on a lot of nights.
And as I was saying before, Massar is only 21. He's a year older than Slafkovsky. They're buddies. So yeah, 20. We saw what Juraj Slafkovsky could do in the second half of last season. We know what he can do. The ability's there, the talent's there. He's just got to do it consistently. And for every young player in the NHL, that's one of the biggest struggles, is finding that consistency.
Yeah, so I wonder if he'll be able to. I mean, hopefully he'll be able to find his groove this season, just because it's just from the get-go, from the start of the season. Yeah, he was putting up a lot of points at the beginning of the year, but again, we were criticizing Nick Suzuki and Cole Caulfield at the beginning of the year, right? Mm-hmm. They were kind of just falling into points just based off of how good they were. I remember there was a game, in late October, they played against the Islanders. They managed to tie up the game late, push it into shootout. And Martin St. Louis' message to his top line was none of them shot in that shootout. Yeah. But they were the ones who tied the game. But, he knew, Martin St. Louis knew that they kind of got away with stealing a point there. So I think
Slafkovsky has started using his body a lot more recently.
Yes.
And that's a good sign. Like now, I'm looking at the stats here. He's now 109 hits. He's 8 ahead of Heineman. He's played 4 more games. And he's Slafkovsky's second on the team in hits now. 1 hit behind Anderson and Arbor Jacki. So he has, I don't know if somebody talked with him or it was Kent Hughes or Marty St. Louis, but I've noticed him finishing checks. There's so many times I watch him early in the season and the defenseman would have the puck in the corner and he'd come in and have a chance to make a hit, like split second after the guy gets rid of the puck, a legal hit, and instead it's the one hand sort of poke check at the puck or just a little shove into the boards instead of finishing the hit. And if he keeps finishing that hit, that's going to be a much better player, just a much better player. And then you think back like a Cam Neely or those power forwards about dumped it. Josh Anderson. One of the reasons Josh Anderson is so effective this season, you dump the puck. You're playing defense in the opposition. The puck gets dumped in your corner, and Josh Anderson's on the ice. You're getting hit. Like you are going to get hit unless you get rid of the puck really fast before you can get there. And then when you're trying to get rid of the puck really fast, there's a bigger chance you're going to make a mistake with the puck, right? So Josh Anderson is just bearing down on guys, and Slafkovsky's got to do the same thing. And to his credit, he has really been starting to do that recently.
Yeah, so I think that's fair. So, while I have been a little critical of him, offensively, he's playing effective hockey. It's just, it's a matter of the same thing as how we spoke about Anderson last year. And towards how he progressed towards this year. I think Anderson has been a very, very effective hockey player this year. He's probably playing some of his best hockey he's played with the Canadiens. And I think a lot of people would have been last year a lot easier on him had he not come with the price tag that he's coming with.
Yeah.
That's the whole thing.
Well, one of the differences between Anderson and Slafkovsky, Anderson last year got himself in a bad spot mentally. Like he admitted that, like he was, as he said, when things were starting to go a little bit better, like when he wasn't getting points, he was playing good at the beginning of the season. He was getting all kinds of chances he couldn't score, but then it sort of got into his head. Instead of focusing, okay, I'm still playing well, just keep doing what I'm doing, it's going to come. He got into his head, and Marty St. Louis talked about that a little bit recently, saying, it was hard for him to be a leader last season on the team because he was so into his own problems, right? Like, and that's common with guys, professional athletes. It gets in their head, right? Confidence is so important in any pro sport, and he had lost it. And one of the good things with Slafkovsky is his personality is a little different. He doesn't seem to let stuff bother him as much. He's still joking around and having fun with the media, and that's one of the reasons they took him number 1, because they thought he could handle this market and the pressure that comes here. So while he's very critical of his own play when he's not playing well and he understands what he's doing wrong, he doesn't get himself into a bad – Slafkovsky doesn't get him into a bad place where he's feeling down, he's feeling blue, he's not happy showing up to the rink. Kid always seems to be in a good mood, and that's good. Like that's good. Like he's able to handle at 20 years old a lot of pressure that's coming at him. And with Josh Anderson last season, a lot of his issues, I think, later on was just he just got so down on himself that he just couldn't pull himself up. And with Slafkovsky, that ability to keep that sort of, I don't want to say happy-go-lucky, like he still wants to play well and he wants to do well, but he doesn't get really down on himself that hard. And I know, speaking with a Finnish reporter who was here in Montreal earlier this season, doing stories on Patrick Laine, and he told me that was one of the issues with Patrick Laine, that he was so negative, like got down on himself when things weren't going bad, and it like to a really bad point, like dragging himself down mentally when things weren't going well. So for Slafkovsky, mentally, he's a very mature 20-year-old kid, and I mean, I've got nothing but kudos for him for the way he has handled new country, new language, living away from home, like 20 years old. Everywhere he goes, he's recognized. And he's handled everything really, really, really well. Like really impressive the way he has handled the off-ice stuff and just everything that comes with the big spotlight he's in. And again, he's 20 years old, and we've seen what he can do. And he's just got to get more consistent with it, and I think he will. I think another 3 years from now he's going to be 23 years old, right, with a ton of NHL experience, and by that time you expect he's going to have that consistency in his game.
Well, that's it, and he knows it. He knows it too. That he said at the beginning of the season when the heat was really on, he said, "Yeah, I know I'm 20 years old, but I'm also in my third year."
Yeah, he said that. Well, that's what I mean. He doesn't look for excuses. He doesn't look for excuses. And you're right. He said that, yeah, I'm only 20, but it's my third year, so it doesn't really matter that I'm 20. I'm in my third year in the NHL. But again, he's going to be 23. I was looking at this the other day. The guys from his draft year, he's played, I think it's 165 games in the NHL, which is like a ton more than anybody else from that draft year. So he's getting the experience, and that's really important. He's got 166 games played. Logan Cooley's second with 129, and then Pavel Mintyukov is 103, and then nobody else has more than 100 games in the NHL.
There you go. So Canadiens fans, not all first overall picks are created equal. Although you know what, I even though the numbers,
no, they're not. No.
Even though the numbers aren't there, I haven't seen really Habs fans be impatient with him so much. It was a little bit at the beginning of the season, but I think Habs fans are smart enough and they understand that he's still young and that, he's still trying to be this is one of the hard things I find for him is that his whole life, he's been a dominant player, scoring every second or third shift he plays. And then you get to the NHL and it's not like that. And you go through stretches where you don't score a lot of goals. And now he's kind of figured out, or still has to figure out, like you said, on a more consistent basis, how to be an effective player when you're not scoring.
And I think the other reason that he's just such a likable kid.
Oh yeah. And
I think that fans, it's hard, being around him, it's hard not to like Juraj Slafkovsky. He's a guy who walks into a room and lights up a room when he walks into it. He's got a great personality. I think that works in his favor also. And now, the thing with guys that are as big as him, they dominated it when they were younger just because they were so much bigger than everybody else, right? They were just, he was a man when he was 15 years old or 14 years old playing under 16 tournaments or whatever at 215 pounds or whatever he was back then. So he didn't have to think about using his body because he was so much bigger. And other guys probably weren't hitting him because, you want to hit a guy when you're 15 years old who's 60 pounds heavier than you or that size, then you get to the NHL and everybody's strong and everybody hits you. That's why early, last season, we'd see times where, he put himself in vulnerable positions, like quite a lot along the boards and get hammered. We don't see that as much now. Like he's learned that just because he's big as he is, guys in the NHL are still going to hit you. and they're still going to play you hard. And you need to learn to use your body instead of just saying, "Oh, I'm big and it's going to be to my advantage." Just natural. You got to use that size. And as I said earlier, we're starting to see that now with him throwing his weight around more and finishing his checks. If I was Marty St. Louis or the guys working with that's something I'd really be focusing on him in the video. Show him every time he didn't finish his check when he could have. Like, get him in the habit of finishing his check every time he has a chance to finish his check.
And I'm expecting tomorrow night, I'm expecting him, Suzuki, Caulfield to respond to yesterday's game in a pretty substantial way. I think this is going to be a big night for that line. I think it's going to be a big night for Lane Hutson. I think it's going to be a big night for, it seems like every night's a big night for Patrick Laine.
Yeah.
But I think those three in particular, the top line and Lane Hutson, who, he had a pretty tough game yesterday. I think Saturday night at the Bell Center, coming off a loss where you didn't put your best foot forward, this is the time where, you're going to say to the people who are a little concerned about, last night's loss, you're going to say, hey, you're worried about nothing. Mm-hmm. That game was a one-off, and we're back. We're still pushing towards the playoffs, and I think that line is going to put on a show tomorrow for the Bell Center fans.
Yeah, I know Chris Nyland has told me when he used to play for Jacques Lemaire. Lemaire had a saying: "You're allowed one bad game out of 10." Mm-hmm. Like, every player is going to have, but not 2, not 3. I think it's the same from a team standpoint. Like, you're allowed one bad game out of 10 as a team. Not 3. If you have 3 bad games out of 10, you're never going to make the playoffs. So last night was a bad game, and as you said, we'll see how they're able to bounce back against New Jersey. Again, I think it was important. They flew back from Detroit last night, so they wouldn't have got back that late. Day off today, back home, and now they're home for a while. Right now, they got an extended time at home, which they haven't had for a long time. Just a chance to recharge the batteries, get ready, and feed off the crowd at the Bell Center.
Well, that's it, because it seems like this team just Saturday night at the Bell Center, slowly but surely, the Bell Center is becoming a fortress again. And the Canadiens need that, because how many years was it, since maybe the bubble year where there were no fans, that the Canadiens just couldn't win on home ice and they couldn't wait to get on the road? Now it feels like the opposite. This is a good thing for the Canadiens.
Well, as Gorton said in the other podcast there, he said it's hard to imagine it crazier than it is now. The Bell, like, they're a fun, this is a fun team to watch. They're a lot of fun to watch. They're a likable team. They've got a lot of fans love Lane Hutson. Fans love Cole Caulfield. Fans love Nick Suzuki. Josh, it's a really good group of young guys on this team with some good veterans mixed in there with Matheson and Savard. They're a fun team to watch, or a fun team to cheer for, and fans are into them. Like, fans, this city. When Tony joined us there a couple of Fridays ago, we were talking about it. Like, the Canadiens are the heartbeat of this city. Like, especially now, right? January, February, when winter's just dragging on and it seems like spring's never going to come. Canadiens win a couple of games, people feel better. They do. Yeah. It's a reality. People feel better. People go out to eat more. People, go to a bar and have a drink to celebrate after the game. It's good for everybody. It's good for the fans. It's good for the city. It's good for the restaurant owners. It's good for everybody. And it's been a while since we've had that, right, in the city. And again, once the weather gets warm, and when they went to the Stanley Cup final in 2021, as you said, it was COVID. It was like 3,000 people or whatever allowed in the arena by the time they got to the end, and we saw how crazy it was outside then. So you imagine if they get in a playoff run, it would just be not only for the experience on the ice for these players to play playoff hockey, but just for the young guys to see how crazy this city will get.
Yeah.
Like, just to experience how crazy. There's not that many guys left from I remember after the game when on St. Jean-Baptiste, when it was Lehkonen, right, who scored the winning goal, and it was madness outside, and a bunch of the players went up on the roof of the Bell Center to look down to see what was going on. So, like, for these young guys, just to experience how crazy this city will get, and how much these fans will love them if they can get in the playoffs.
Well, that's it, because as they've they've learned over the past 3-4 years, the lows could be pretty damn low.
Best
But the highs,
best place to play when things are going great, and worst place to play when things are going horrible. And
well, that's it.
and
you know,
as it, this city could use a playoff run by the Canadiens.
And just to further your point, you know, one thing that always bothered me was other players coming into the Bell Center or other teams coming to Montreal saying, "Oh, I love playing in this building." I want them to hate it. And you know what? I think they are starting to hate it. You heard on, I don't know if you saw this clip, but when the Canadiens were playing the Rangers last Sunday, the New York, the Canadiens fans, they were booing Chris Kreider every time he touched the puck.
Mm-hmm.
And on the New York broadcast, they were going, "Oh my God, I can't believe they're still booing him. They're still giving him a hard time. Oh, it's been 10 years and there's no way Chris Kreider did that on purpose." And that's a whole other conversation. But, you know, they couldn't believe that the fans just get on you like that. And that's what the Bell Center needs to be. They need to be a fortress.
That's surprising coming from Rangers announcers, since at Madison Square Garden, you still get the Potvin sucks chants. And what was really funny, there was one that started at the Bell Center with some Ranger fans up in the upper deck during that game. So fans have long memories, not just Canadiens fans. I mean, the Potvin sucks thing that goes back right to the 70s. It's crazy.
Yeah.
But yeah, Chris Kreider will get booed forever. I mean, the Canadiens fans are always wondering, what if he hadn't run Carey Price?
Yeah, that's another, you know what, we'll save that conversation perhaps for this coming summer, or when the Canadiens are eliminated from the playoffs, which hopefully, you know, they make it there. So, like we said,
no carrying the press box, so I'd love to see the Canadiens get in the playoffs this year.
Oh, of course.
As a Montrealer and for the city, I think the city could use the Canadiens. It'd be a great boost going into the spring and warmer weather and having the Canadiens playing some playoff hockey.
Oh, listen, there's no cheering in the press box, but at the same time, you know, I used to cover the Concordia Stingers school paper, and, you know, we're taught in journalism, you got to be neutral. You got to be, you know, you're not a fan, you know, you're there to do a job, but it's a lot more fun doing the job when Concordia goes on a run to the finals of their division playoffs.
As I tell people, my life doesn't change if the Canadiens win or lose. I'm not cheering in the press box, but yeah, it's more fun to cover a winning team. It just is. It's you're watching better hockey for starters. I remember during the end of the Dominic Ducharme era there, I remember sitting in the press box with Pat Hickey and going, "Pat, thank God we get paid to watch this, man." You know, I couldn't imagine paying $300 a ticket to sit and watch this. We're getting paid to watch it. But they're fun to watch, and a winning team's more fun to cover. The players are in a better mood. It's good for everyone. I said it's good for everyone. Winning, the Canadiens winning hockey. And, you know, I wrote this week also, I think it was in the mailbag that I do. I said the NHL. Some reader asked if there's still a mystique with the Canadiens, if there still is, and I answered there is. Like there's something special. The CH is still an iconic brand. You know, people say, "Oh, they haven't won the cup since '93." No, well, the Leafs haven't won since '67, and the Canucks have never won a cup since they've been in the league. And there's a lot of, you know, Canadiens have 24 Stanley Cups. The Leafs are second with, I think it's 13.
Yeah.
And then after that, nobody else has more than 6. So the Canadiens are still an iconic brand. There's still a mystique. There's still something special about the Bell Center on a Saturday night. And the NHL is a better league when the Canadiens are doing well. And the same applies to all the original 6 teams. I'm sure Gary Bettman would agree with that. The NHL is a better league, just like baseball is better when the Yankees and the Dodgers are good. You know, or basketball is better when the Lakers and the Celtics are good. Or, you know, football is better when the Patriots or whoever are good. And the same in hockey. And the NHL is a better league when the Canadiens are doing well. And Montreal is a better city when the Canadiens are winning.
Yeah, and it starts, like Jeff Gordon said, every game now is the most important game of the year, and it starts tomorrow against let's call it a reeling Devils team, because they started pretty hot, and in their last 10.
Markstrom's out for 4 to 6 weeks, so we're going to see Jake Allen in goal tomorrow night, I would think.
And which is significant also because there's some trade clause in there.
If he plays 20 games this season, the 3rd round pick becomes a 2nd round pick.
There you go.
Yeah, is it 20? I can't remember exactly.
I think it might be 4. I think it might be 40 games.
Might be 40.
Yeah, but 4 to 6 weeks.
Yeah.
And hey, if Jake Allen goes on a little bit of an Andrew Hammond run for the New Jersey Devils, it's going to be a hard time for them to take the start leaning off of him.
Yeah, so it is 40 because he's played 15 already this year.
There you go. So 25 more to go.
And the Devils have to make the playoffs. There's 2 conditions on that trade.
Yeah, and with the way things are going in New Jersey, 3-4-3, so 3 wins in their last 10.
Yeah.
Not going too well. And Columbus, just wow, what a story they are, just bringing up the rear of New Jersey, and they just seems like, except for last night, they on the big picture they can't stop winning.
Yeah, and this is without Johnny Gaudreau. Sean Monahan's been hurt. It's turning into a great story in Columbus.
So, like we said, it all starts tomorrow with the most important. We're going to be saying this till the end of the year. The most important game of the year.
That's right.
That's the way it should be, against the New Jersey Devils at the Bell Center. Stu, enjoy the hockey. Enjoy your weekend. Thanks for joining me.
You too.
That was Stu Cowan. I'm Matt Ohayon. We'll catch you next time.
And that's a wrap. Hope you don't miss us too much until next time. Follow the Sick Podcast with Tony Marinaro on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, Google Play, and Apple Podcasts. The Sick Podcast is brought to you by Energy Transportation Group, driven to be different. LaVie.tv, embrace your true nature. And Playground, your premier gaming destination.